What's up, you guys? I want to ask a quick question. Do you think that Spanish is stigmatized in the United States? You think that there's some, like a sort of a stigma or a mark of shame associated with speaking Spanish in the United States? And the reason I ask that is just because sometimes I think people's attitudes towards Spanish kind of reflect something like, like there being some sort of a stigma associated with it. Like sometimes, like I know in high school, sometimes you're given a choice between learning, like say Spanish or French, and depending on where you go, you may have more choices or less choices. But oftentimes it's like, oh, Spanish or French, and like me personally, I took both in high school, although I took more Spanish than French. But I took both in high school, and I enjoyed learning both of them. However, I just gravitated more so with Spanish because I guess I took it more in high school, and also because Spanish is used in the United States more so than French. Um, but it seems like French has sort of a quote unquote nice reputation associated with it, like being like a language of like sophistication, of class, of elegance. Now I don't think people view Spanish as that with that same you know those same qualities. I think, and I think it's just because maybe it's associated with like I guess let me phrase this in the right way so that I don't offend anybody. But I think it's sort of probably associated more so with like the working class people or people who may be somewhat impoverished or uneducated, perhaps. But at least with maybe like the working class people, though. But French, on the other hand, is not associated with like the working class people. So do you think that there's a stigma? Like me personally, I do think that there's sort of a stigma associated with it. Not to say that people don't want to learn Spanish, because people do want to learn Spanish. There's people all over the world who want to learn Spanish and who don't even know about the stigma associated with it in the United States or even care about that. you know. But in the United States, I do think there is sort of a stigma associated with Spanish. And I just think it's probably more so, it's kind of reflective of kind of like the status that people who speak Spanish in the United States hold. Kind of like how people possibly may view people who speak Spanish in the United States. So, what do you think? And one more thing I want to touch on. Suppose if like it was federally mandated that all students learn a foreign language, you know, from say, elementary school to the end of high school. You know, do you like and say if they chose a specific language, like say Spanish, or if they chose French, which one do you think would get more backlash? Like, do you think that if it was federally mandated that all students in public schools or schools period learn French, do you think that the backlash that that would receive be as strong as the backlash that say Spanish would receive if it was federally mandated to be learned by students in in public schools, elementary through high school? Because I think that both would receive backlash, but I think that Spanish would probably receive more backlash because of just people with xenophobic views and people probably having some sort of a fear, Hispanophobia. Just like, okay, these people from another country are going to come and take over and change the language, you know, and they're like, no, we don't want that to happen, and that's understandable. But you don't have to sacrifice all that just to learn the language. But I will say that sort of something like that did happen in Miami, kind of, sort of, you know. But I don't think that that would happen, even if they did fairly mandate that, all students learn foreign language, say Spanish. I don't think that would happen because I just think that English is very just, very necessary to succeed in the United States and even just throughout the world. English has a very strong presence. Although, I think that, in the United States, people don't know their history and have it's sort of like an inconvenient truth. And the inconvenient truth in this situation is that, the United States actually does have a, Hispanic influence. Spaniards, came, I think they were like the first people that set foot in the United States, and the first European language that was spoken in the United States was Spanish. And like in the Southwest, definitely, like they had a strong, like you can see their influence there, in the names, um, in the architecture, you know, heck, even in the people, you can see their influence. And I think, you know, that is sort of just an inconvenient truth that, some people it's kind of just don't want to accept or don't want to acknowledge, at least. It's sort of kind of like how some people kind of view like Judaism and Jewish people, and how people who are Christian may have some animosity towards Jewish people, but like Christianity originated from Judaism, and it's like, oh, people don't want to; those people don't want to acknowledge that, you know. But don't want to get too off subject. But basically, long story short, do you think Spanish has a stigma within the United States? Feel free to let me know. Feel free to comment. Feel free to subscribe. Feel free to give me a thumbs up. Thanks a lot for the support. Adios and goodbye for now.